Morning. First, some details on a story developing this morning. Emergency legislation is being introduced next week to force phone and internet companies to log records of customers' calls, texts and internet usage.
The proposed new law has cross-party support and is designed to help security services access the data they need. Our political editor, Nick Robinson, has been given some of the details and we can speak to him now. Morning to you, Nick. So this is about the records of phone calls, texts and internet usage. Just explain exactly what that will mean.
Well, at the moment, those records are kept, but thanks to a legal ruling, ministers worry, the security services worry, the police worry that those records are going to be destroyed. Now, those are not records of what you say in a phone call, Charlie, or what it is that you write in an email, but there are currently records kept for up to 2 years of who you call and when you call, the sort of information that you get on your mobile phone bill, in other words. That information is retained by the companies, but a new legal ruling said that that was not acceptable, and that is why the government has concluded, and Labour are now backing them on this, that a new law is needed. And this is a very unusual new law. The Cabinet have been gathered now to be told about it for the first time, literally in the last minute. There is going to be a news conference at 10:15. It will be published and passed within a week, by the end of next week, which is extremely unusual because they say this is effectively an emergency. If there was not a new law, the claim is being made that the police would lose the ability to track information from organised criminals, to track information from child sex offenders, and the security services would lose, it's being claimed, the information they need to track terrorists and the people who could cause disruption in Syria and in Iraq that we've heard so much about recently.
Yes, and Nick, this is emergency legislation. You referenced the fact that it's happening very quickly. Do we know if it is linked to something specific?
It's linked to this legal case rather than a specific new threat. In other words, there was a ruling of what's called the European Court of Justice, that's the EU's court based in Luxembourg, that said the powers enshrined in EU law, not in British law, to keep this data, those powers were too much of an intrusion into people's privacy, and they overruled that law. And what the government is now saying is, right, we need our own law then to make sure that this can continue to happen as it is now. Now, people who don't like the idea of the government, let alone the security services or the police, having access to their data may smell a rat here. They'll say, didn't we have a story about a so-called snooper's charter, the idea of extending the powers to give access to some of the content of emails and not just to who you call and when you call or contact? The ministers are insisting, and they have the Labour Party's backing on this, this is not an extension of powers. It is simply, if you like, the boy putting his finger in the dike. There is a danger these powers will die. There is a danger, they claim, that the internet companies and the phone companies will destroy all this data in the next few weeks, so that if the police or the security services were to come along and say, right, we need to track the information about person A or person B, those companies would then say, too bad, we don't have it anymore. So the argument is being made, emergency law now, a bigger debate on wider powers, maybe in the future after the general election. But clearly critics will say this is a major debate about our privacy. It is a major debate about what the state has a right to know and what we have a right to keep private to ourselves, and it shouldn't be done in this sort of rush.
Nick, for the moment, thank you.
Let's take you back to our other main story. Teachers